Hi, I'm Christopher, a research software engineer with Research Software Workshops, and it's a very warm welcome to part 4 for Git for Collaboration. The link to the material is here at the bottom of the page, and if you go to the Conflicts and Merging section, you'll come here. In the last section, we saw how we could pull changes made by the original owner of the repository to our personal fork on our computer, and those changes were just automatically merged into our project. But what would happen if maybe conflicting changes had been made to a file? So for example, let's have a look here at this planning stage1.md file. So I'm going to have a look at this now. So nano planning stage1.md. This is the list of the various stages that need to be performed when we're installing the kitchen. So installing the cupboards, the drawers, the ceiling, the lights, tiling the walls, which we install the lights above, install the countertops, oven and fridge. Now, let's imagine now that the original owner, so I'm going to go and become now the original owner of the file, the person who owned the original repository. Maybe they're going to make a change to this file, and what they're going to do is they're going to say, let's now decide that we're going to have an electric oven. So this original owner of the file will go, yep, I'm now going to change this to an electric oven. And they will save that. They will then commit it. Making the oven electric. So this is the original owner, it's not you, this is the person doing it in the original upstream repository. And they push that to upstream because they're the original owner of it. So then here we now look at this on my one, on my fork. Interesting, I confirm that. If I just reload this, on my original version we still have the oven as being undefined. We haven't specified yet if this is going to be electric or gas. But if we look at the original project, we look under planning. There we are, the person who did this originally has now decided it's going to be electric. Now, they've pushed it to the original upstream project, and of course this hasn't actually changed the fork at all. So the fork that we had, our fork in our project, has not been changed by this change to upstream. And indeed, if I go to my terminal, so here I am in my fork, if I type git pull, you see nothing's changed. We haven't actually made anything yet. Indeed, if I just double check again, just to show you we only changed the original, we didn't change your fork. Yep, the fork still doesn't have a specification of this being oven electric or electric yet. Now, let's say now we didn't know that the original owner had made this into an electric oven. Maybe now we're going to decide, in our fork, we're going to make this a gas oven. So we're going to make a change now. So this is us now making this change. We're going to go in and we're going to say we want this to be a gas oven. And we're now going to save this. And we're going to push this to our repository. Oh, is it? Yep, we're going to save it and push it to our repository. We want a gas oven. And there we are, let's push this in. There we are, that's now pushed up. And so on our fork, if I now reload our forks, this is R1, we can see we've now gone for a gas oven, whereas the original has got an electric oven. Now, we don't know yet that the original has done that because pretend we haven't looked at it, we haven't seen that happening. So let's now try and pull changes that have been made in the original from upstream to our project. We do that, remember, with git pull, and then upstream main. So this will pull the changes made in the original into our version. Now, before when we did this, it automatically merged those changes in. But what we see now is we see that this has failed. Automatic merge failed, fix conflicts, then commit the result. These lines here are important. What they say is that Git has seen that there's a conflict in this planning stage1.md file. Git has done its best to merge changes together, but it cannot do so automatically when those changes both occur to the same line of the same file. And in these cases where two people change the same line of the same file, you have to resolve this conflict manually and merge them yourself. So to do this, we can see the conflict is in planning stage 1. So let's have a look at this file. And what we can see here is Git has marked there's a conflict using these little arrows, equal signs, and these arrows here. And what this is saying is that in our version, which is head, we've got installed the gas oven. But in the version which came from upstream, which was this particular Git version number, they've said it's going to be an electric oven. And this set of equals here, that's how we divide the two different lines, how they're separate. So it's either this one or it's going to be this one. So it's now up to us to decide how we should merge these conflicted lines together. Now in some cases it could mean looking for a compromise, or maybe reworking the file so we can include both of these things within the file. But in some cases there has to be a decision. We have to decide, in this case, is it going to be a gas oven or an electric oven? Well, in this case we're going to say, yep, well, we were the ones who put gas in, so let's go for gas. So what you do is you get rid of the change and you keep your line and get rid of everything else, and that's fine. And so what we now do is we now save this file. And now if I look at Git status, what you'll see here is we have both modified this file and it's now not in conflict because we have done the work of resolving that conflict. Okay, now I've done that, I can do git commit -a, and you can see it now has that little automatic merge branch, and indeed shows there is a conflict and you've merged things correctly, so we don't even have to edit this, it's all automatic. And now that we've done that, we can now git push to push this to our fork. There we are. So that's pushed, and again, if we look on GitHub, the last commit, so we want a gas oven, and if I go back to the main project page, there we are, there's the merge commit, and if we look in project stage 1, there we are, we're having the gas oven, that's fine. Now that we've done this, of course, it's recorded the change and we can now type in git pull upstream main, and now because Git knows that we don't want that line, which had the electric oven, it doesn't pull that line in, so there's no longer a conflict. Now, while this has kind of resolved the conflict, and we can now do this git pull upstream main to fetch new changes without worrying about the conflict again, what we've kind of now set in motion is this plan that our fork, we're going to be continuing on this line of installing a gas oven, while the person who's originally working in upstream is definitely planning on still installing an electric oven. Indeed, just to show you, if we go to the fork, you know, as with all of these things, you pushing to your version does not push to the original, and so the original person is still committed to an electric oven. And so what we've kind of done is at this point, I've seen there's a difference, and I've just kind of went, yeah, I'm still going to do my own thing anyway. Far from resolving the conflict, what we've really done is, by a complete lack of communication, we've pushed the problem, this conflict, down the road. So anyway, we're now going to keep planning that we're going to install a gas oven. So to do this, we're going to need to plan for gas to be installed within the kitchen. So let's go back and let's edit this stage 1 file again. And what we're going to do is, well, we're going to need to install, before we can even install the cupboards and everything, we're going to have to install a gas pipe. So if you edit it and make these changes, I need to install a gas boiler. There we are, those things have been put in. I'm now going to commit those changes, git commit -a, continuing to work with gas. And of course I can push them to my origin, and in it will go. Now, meanwhile, while we've been working here on gas, that original owner of the repository here in red, well, they're working on an electric oven, aren't they? So they will need to be thinking about maybe installing an electric boiler. And of course, they will then be saving it and working away, continuing with electric. And they'll be pushing that to their original repository. Now, if I now try and try and pull the changes as we were doing before. So basically git pull upstream main. Again, we find we get this merge conflict. It says, sorry, again, we're conflicting. It's in planning stage 1. We can't automatically do this. So again, we have to go and look at what the conflict in the file. So let's have a look at planning stage 1. And there we are. So one of us is saying install electric boiler. The original person is saying install electric boiler. We're saying install a gas pipe and a gas boiler. And so again, this is difficult. We could again delete things as we were doing. So basically say, yep, we really don't want electric. We'll keep it with gas. And then we can commit and push this, but ultimately this is just going to push this question of should we be working with gas or electric further and further down the road. So let me try and save this. Git commit -a really submerge branch. We don't need to put a message in. Git push. We're definitely going with gas in this case. And now, I've resolved the conflict, but we haven't really. We're still arguing effectively, but without knowing it about whether we go with electric or gas. But let's imagine now I make changes which don't conflict, which assumes that, the person is using an electric boiler. So, maybe what they've got now, the original person is committed to electric. They've got an electric boiler in, so maybe they're going to install electric heaters. Because they're really committed to electric at this point. So they are committing that. Really want electric here. They've pushed that to their repository and they're going all in on everything. Now, when you then, on your fork, git pull upstream main, again it says we have this conflict. What are we going to do about it? If we now look at this file and see where the conflict is, we can see this is going to be a kind of a recurring pattern. It's like, oh, they've put electric back in and we still want to put gas in. And what we could do is we could basically keep repeating this pattern of deleting their things and adding in our things. But ultimately, this is just going to be a fight which will just keep escalating, or we will get annoyed eventually by the original sort of repository, and we'll never pull from them again. So at this point, rather than continuing to resolve a merge, it might be worth using another tool of conflict resolution, which is basically communication. So at this point, when we have this thing where we're continually having conflict, it's time to talk to each other. So what I want you to do now, so it's like we've reached all the way to the bottom of this particular page. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to now resolve the conflict by changing electric heaters to radiators, and then sort of commit the change and push your change to your fork. And I'll sort of pause now, and we'll press pause now. When you come back, I'll show you the answer. Okay, you've unpaused now. So again, the conflict was here in this planning stage 1. We're going to resolve it by saying, well, we don't want electric heaters, so we just want radiators. And then, of course, I do want my gas pipe. I want my gas boiler. I don't want the electric boiler, and I don't need that little sort of git sign there. So this would be kind of how I think it should be resolved, assuming we're sticking with gas. That's a merge, so it doesn't need a message. I can now git push. And there we are. It's been pushed in, and then in my fork, if we look at this, we can now see we're working with a gas pipe, gas boiler and radiators with a gas oven. Whereas if we go back to the original repository and we look at what they were working with, they are still committed to an electric boiler, electric heaters and electric oven. There's definitely a lot of conflict here. Or we really have forked, we've diverged really between these two repositories now, and maybe they shouldn't be linked together. Okay, so that's now brought us to the end of this page. Click Next to go on to the next topic, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.